Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Hello! Good to see you. It's a Friday Peace Talks, and my word, what a Friday. We've got a couple suggestions already lined up, including, thank you, Foxy, for pointing that out, finding it and pointing it out, including one from DawnedOnMe, which was maddening, but also good for us to talk about, and I think opens up a wider conversation, which I would very much like to have with all of you. How are you doing? It's Friday. Made it through another week. Good on you. Let's have a look at who we're talking to. DawnedOnMe, hello. We're starting off with a piece that you recommended yesterday. Pinkerbell, hello. Wicked Foxy Dragon, good to see you. Good to see the gang. I'll tell you. I saw that your old pal Jake was mentioned on the True North Eager Beaver podcast earlier today, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous to watch it. I'm going to watch it after this, but I get bashful. Darn it. C'est la vie. I do very much, though, want to jump into this piece. The way this is supposed to work. Oh, hey, I should set things up proper. Let me copy this link. If you have a suggestion for a piece of media that we should look at, use this link. Share it in the table there that you'll see, and we'll look at it. We'll look at it together. The way this is supposed to work is that your old pal watches it live and gives you a live reaction. I'll be honest though with you with this first one. I already watched it. It was Bo with the fifth column. I really, really wanted to see it, and I was impatient, and so I watched it. But we'll watch it again. I will happily watch Bo twice any old time. And there's a hell of a lot I want to say about it. So let's jump right into it. It's a suggestion from DawnedOnMe. Thank you very much. It's Bo of the fifth column on this Friday Peace Talks. And he is discussing the definition of a word in the law and how it implies to the current enforcement of the laws in Texas. Let's have a gander.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Howdy, Bo.
So today we are going to talk about Texas and definitions. And honestly, something that just got under my skin. There's no other way to put it. Something got under my skin. And we're going to talk about it. But before we do it, today's going to be a little bit different. Rather than giving you like a rough sketch of what occurred, we're going to talk about a definition I found. Okay, it's in the Texas codes or laws or whatever, and it's a definition for the word resident. And it says that the word resident means, quote, any person who lives in the state in any firm, corporation, or association which is physically located in the state, a person who is temporarily living in the state and retains a permanent home in another state, is nevertheless a resident of Texas. Okay. So, I mean, Texas has pretty loose definition for the word resident. Okay. So keep that in mind. This is what happened.
Loose but fair. Like a judge that went to Catholic school. I agree with the definition.
A group decided to break a rule in Houston. The city of Houston has decided that it should be against the law to help people, to feed people who don't have homes. It's against the law to do that. And this group, well, they did it anyway. And they got the ticket, they took it to court, and the first one up, well, they've won. This isn't national news. Because to be honest, this is like what, food not bombs? It's what they do. It's like their thing. The fact that they did it and did it successfully, not really a surprise. They're engaged in this in a whole lot of places. It's not national news. But then there was this statement. It's from the city there. The city of Houston intends to vigorously pursue violations of its ordinance related to feeding of the homeless. It is a health and safety issue for the protection of Houston's residents. There have been complaints and incidents regarding the congregation of the homeless around the library, even during off hours. Start.
Just chiming in to tell you I'm not going to chime in a whole lot. I'm going to let the majority of the rest of this play. I think I have so few notes for this man this time that I think he deserves to be uninterrupted. Although, I do want to say that Yes Ha will become a just due to the humorous autocorrect in the chat there, that will become something I say quite a bit. So thank you very much, anti-corporatist, and whichever autocorrect made that phrase possible for our vocabulary. Yes, Ha.
There, I guess. Even during off hours. So, what that tells me is this has absolutely nothing to do with people trying to get to the library, or maybe even them just weirdly feeling uncomfortable or anything like that, because even during off hours, there were complaints, right? So, I mean, the only way that I can take that is that the real issue is they exist, that the homeless people exist and they're there. That's the problem, even during off hours. But let's go back. It is a health and safety issue for the protection of Houston's residents. You can't feed the residents of Houston to protect their health and safety? I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. Because if you go back to that definition, maybe the city's using a different one, but the one that I found, I mean, I get part of it. I understand that they're not a firm, corporation, or association. I get that. Oh, well, I guess the city doesn't see them as people. It's the only way I can take this.
Boom.
It's the only way I can take that statement. Maybe they meant something else, but that's the only way I can read it. That they're not people. That's why they're not a resident. Because they live there, right? I would suggest that most definitions of the word resident are basically, hey, a person who lives in a defined geographic area. They're a resident of that area. But that's not enough, I guess, because it's a health and safety issue. I'm going to assume that the city doesn't think that feeding people is dangerous to their health and safety. Right? So the only way to take it is that those people, I guess I shouldn't call them people, right? Those others, those subhumans that are by the library, that not just are they not people, they're also diseased criminals, right? It's the only way I can take it. Health.
I mean, he's just right. He's just right. This is no way to treat other human beings, and you really only can treat other human beings like this if you cease thinking of them as human beings. This is, when I rail against capitalism, it's not the concept of people it's not the concept of people becoming rich that I have a problem with. I'm all for that. My God, if you can get a bigger piece of the pie than life meant for you to have, good on you. Get one over on life. Good. Uh, but there is a line between luxury and excess, which, in order for some people to cross, others must suffer. And that's where I have a problem. And so few people will get the opportunity to cross that line that it becomes necessary to trick regular folks who will not be able to cross that line into seeing a significant portion of their countrymen as undeserving of kindness, as undeserving of not even kindness, of the same rights enjoyed by everybody else. And so they are then subjected to that cruelty. We got to stop falling for that. It's fine. It's fine to get a bigger piece of the pie for yourself than people normally get. But you can't eat the whole pie because there's a lot of us here.
Health and safety. That's wild. That is wild. People in Houston, you better pay attention to this. Because while sure, language tricks and all of that aside, what you have is a city that is vigorously going to enforce and pursue these regulations to protect the residents. It seems pretty clear from this that resident means the rich people that contribute to their campaigns. Only way I can take it. Because it clearly doesn't mean people who live in Houston. In this day and age, right now, you have people out there trying to do the right thing, trying to help, trying to alleviate suffering among people who are sleeping rough. In this heat. And the city's like, nah, you can't help them. Helping them, that might cause a health and safety issue. What if they don't get help? What happens to them? I guess it doesn't matter, right? Because they're not residents. They don't count. The people in Houston, y'all need to pay attention. Because when any government starts othering people to this degree, it doesn't stop. Once that outgroup gets created like this, it doesn't stop. If you don't have enough money, pretty soon you won't be a resident. And they will vigorously enforce regulations against you. Food Not Bombs doing what they did, it's not a surprise. They do it everywhere. They're a really active group. They don't get a lot of press. It's not a surprise, and I doubt they'll stop. But that statement, and sure, maybe it's different definitions. Maybe that's not what the city meant. All of that stuff. But I don't know any other way to take it. It should be very troubling to people who are in Houston.
Agreed. I think that's also a valuable way to look at the laws we put into place. And hell, let's go way back and look at laws and just norms that we've been following for a long time and examine them with the knowledge that we are talking about human beings. Take, for example, that increasingly famous instance where somebody is caught shoplifting, and the things they are shoplifting are food items. We hear about Walmart's complaints about theft in their stores. Now, a television's one thing. A cell phone case is another. But if somebody is stealing food, what is our punishment for that? Is it any different? Maybe the sentence is lighter because the overall value of the product taken is less. We are happy to dole out the venom. We're happy to dole out the punishment. Do we as a society also take responsibility for the fact that the person needed to commit a crime, or at least they thought they needed to commit a crime, to feed themselves? I would like to see laws that obligate the government to ensure that a person who was caught shoplifting is fed the next week, month, etc. Is fed, so that that crime is not necessary for them again. I would like the government to be obligated to check their EBT card or whatever, their bridge card. That's what we call it in Michigan. Their food stamps, to make sure they are adequate. And if they're not, make them adequate. What you are risking when you steal food is simply, it's not something that you would risk unless you had to. Now, you could argue, oh, but wait, that person that stole food, maybe they did have food stamps, but they spent them all on things they didn't need. Okay, well, whatever it is you can spend food stamps on, whatever other decisions they made in their life, they found themselves in a position where they needed to steal food. That's not something you steal unless you kind of have to. I think Bo is quite correct about this law. I think we should probably take it to heart that this is the sort of thing that gets passed when we're not paying very close attention, or more importantly, when we're not thinking about what we're hearing all that much. Homeless people are people. We don't treat people like that. If somebody is congregating around the library after hours, it's because they have nowhere else to go. So rather than punish them for it, it should become our obligation to deal with it in a kind way, as in provide for them. Find them a place that they can go, build it if necessary, and take them there. If you really need to, set up free transportation between the library and that place that they can go. Not a place that they can get kicked out if they're drunk. Not a place that they can get kicked out if they're high. Because whether they are drunk or high will not change the fact that they have no place to go, because they are going to the library. So simply be a decent human being and provide them a place to go. That should not only be what we do instead of punishment, that is our obligation as decent human beings who want to be able to hold our head high. We have obligations to each other because theoretically we were raised by civilized people who refuse to toss each other to the wolves. I'm interested to hear what y'all have to say. Let's have a discussion in the comments. It is Friday Peace Talks. Let's talk about this piece. Thank you for the suggestion. Dawned on me. Groove Dragon, good to see you. Groovy to be seen and to see thee, Wicked Foxy Dragon, they say. Have an idea about what I can do to spread the word about this show? Oh, yes, please. Go on to other lefty streams and name drop what you can do. WYCD. Anti-corporatist wrestling up some grub. Ooh, I dig it. Oh, we got a very kind super chat. Let's have a look. C-Pup with the $5 super chat missed a lot of impeachment day while it was happening, so thanks for Tuesday's righteously celebrated streams. Well, my pleasure. Oh, thank you, Rex Trek with the $5. I see someone stealing food, then I'm Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing, see nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. Good man. Good man. Ooh, don't forget to take care of corporate media too. Noted. Dawned on me. Imagine this is happening and Texas is in triple digits temperature-wise, and has been for weeks. Yeah. We're awfully quick on the draw when it comes to doling out cruelty for others. Hold up. The Mike's Dead show. Hold up. We're doing something here. Somewhat. Ooh. That's not what I meant to do at all. Stand by. I want to do something. Oofa doofa. I'm looking up the Mike's Dead show live on the stream. And of course, because it's YouTube and it's a relatively new show, having a dickens of a time. Oh well. Hey, the Mike's Dead show. Drop a link to your show if you feel that there's anything we could talk about in that pinned comment. I'd very much like to look at it on tonight's show. If you're down for it, I want to check out some of your clips. Rex Trek Jake has a 70s aura. I appreciate it. I appreciate it quite a bit. I've been modernizing. The anti-corporatists. Okay, now seriously, AFK. Okay, fair enough. Oh, he hasn't started his show yet. I see. Okay, fair enough. I don't feel bad then. When you do, drop me those clips. I'm champing at the bit. I can't wait, man. Ooh, speaking of, we had some True North stuff. They're starting to do shorts, and I'm so damn proud of them, and they're so damn charming. But I tend to open the show with shorts. Oh well. Let me play another short for you instead, because this one is somewhat time dependent. Not even going to record this. This is just for the live folks. Hell, maybe I should. All right. It's a little crunchier today. That's okay. Our boy, Brian Tyler Cohen, is just crushing it. He is, if I were to make a streamer that I think all streamers should be modeled after, it would be that one. The fella gets out there and does good in the world. Case in point, here he is telling us about something we can do this very weekend. Let's have a look.
I promise this will be the most important minute of your day. So here's the deal. Right now, most power plants can emit unlimited carbon pollution, which accounts for a quarter of the country's pollution. Just last month, Philly had the most polluted air of any city in the world. Biden's introduced a rule that would require plants to cut carbon pollution by up to 90%. That rule has to go through the EPA's public comments period, which we're in right now, but it ends soon. August 7th is the last day to get your comments in. So we need to come together and drown out the inevitable onslaught from the fossil fuel industry because, let's be clear, they will stop at nothing to protect their power and prevent this rule from taking effect. And by the way, for those of you thinking, thinking, what's the point? I'm going to submit a comment that no one reads. The EPA is required by law to read every comment that comes in, so we need to keep the pressure on. I made a video last month when the comments period opened, and that video resulted in almost 10,000 comments. So now that the comments period is coming to an end, let's get even more. The fact is that this may be our only shot to keep warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, but it doesn't happen without this change. So please, take a single minute out of your day and submit a comment using the link in my pinned comments. It matters, it will make a difference. Again, link in my pinned comments, let's get it done.
Well, this is where it takes you to Every Voice Counts. Tell EPA to clean up climate pollution. And if you're interested in that yourself, let me copy that link. Well, here it is right here. Boom. Link posted. Good point, Pinkerbell. There's the link. You fill that out. You obligate rich SOBs to have business practices that don't boil our planet. Pretty square deal. Doesn't take very long, and it does a hell of a lot of good. I do love Brian Tyler Cohen, and if y'all aren't following his channel, I recommend it, because it's full of gems like that. That is what you can do. We had a surprise one, because Brian Tyler Cohen made it easy, and I suppose there's something to be learned there. Good man, Brian Tyler Cohen. All right. Jake, do you play BTC on 2x speed? It's like Shapiro talking. No, he was just really trying to get it all out in under a minute. He wanted to do a YouTube short about it. The long and short of that is there are no rules really right now to stop people who generate energy from like electricity from putting out just an infinite amount of carbon. This rule would insist that they have energy standards. The great irony I find is that so much of our world is built on plastic these days. Plastic, which loses its structure when it gets too hot. It's got a very low melting temperature, many plastics. Plastics which are made out of, largely, oil, funny enough. So the very people who are melting the world are also making it out of are insisting that it be built out of a material which melts. And I cannot stop thinking about the fan in Texas with its plastic wood looking, but in fact plastic blades that were flopping over in the heat. That's where we are, y'all. I actually think about that a lot. Like, if you think about a package from the 1920s, imagine what a package in the 20s looks like. It's got brown paper, thick brown paper around it. It's wrapped in twine. Stuff from our era will be thought of as like flimsy, cheap plastic. Pinkerbell, I watched so much on 1.5 speed. Everyone sounds drunk when I catch them live. Well, to be fair, I am a little drunk. Rex Track, it's his big effing mouth. Could be that too. Well, it is the title of the video, y'all, which means we're gonna feel the burn just a little bit. Since we're talking fossil fuel stuff, Bernie Sanders came out the gate with some classic lefty behavior. And if there is any non-lefty in our stream today, then I invite criticism of this. I would like to hear how one disagrees with this, because in my view, this is about the most agreeable thing you can say. It is time, in Bernie Sanders' estimation, to hold fossil fuel companies to account. Well, according to Bernie Sanders, it's time to hold fossil fuel companies to account. Time to hold them responsible for the harm they're doing. If I haven't seen these yet because it's Friday Peace Talks. I just saw the video title, but Bernie puts out bangers. This we know. Even a B-side Michael Jackson song is going to get your feet tapping. That's Bernie with politics. But going in, I would like to say that yes, we've gone too long with allowing giant companies to trash our neighborhoods and get away with it. You believe we have companies which have the heathen sons of bees that run them sit down and say it would be cheaper for us rather than paying the fees to go to whatever disposal site is appropriate for our noxious chemicals. It would be cheaper for us just to dump them into a river. The fish, the fishermen, the bears, the wolves, the foxes, the birds, the human beings that drink out of that river. We save $1. So kill it. Fossil fuel companies, for example, know damn well what they are doing. They can calculate down to the degree how much of an effect they are having on our atmosphere, the literal air we breathe. Was it unbearably hot outside this week? In yet again a new record-breaking summer? Was it unbearably hot? You have them to thank for that. If you got a little bit of sweat constantly pooled on your ribs, if the armpits of your shirts are a nightmare that are unspeakable, you can thank the fossil fuel companies for that. Here's Bernie Sanders talking about it.
Over the last few days, nearly 2/3 of the population of the United States has been living under either a flood warning watch or a heat advisory.
Boom.
Temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean are the highest ever recorded. Wildfires are ravaging parts of Greece. A typhoon has forced tens of thousands of people from their homes in Beijing, and July is on track to be the hottest month in recorded history. Meanwhile, the latest report from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, is very clear and it is very foreboding. If the United States, China, and the rest of the world do not act extremely aggressively in cutting carbon emissions, our planet will face enormous and irreversible damage. Let me be clear about that last part. If the entire planet, led by the largest economies in the world, the United States and China, does not get its act together, the world that we will be leaving our children and future generations will be increasingly unhealthy and uninhabitable. What makes this issue so difficult and so complicated is that it is a crisis that no individual nation can solve alone for its own people. It is a global crisis. It is an issue that requires the cooperation of every nation on earth. Whether we like it or not, we are all in this together. Just
for dignity's sake, Bernie, I'm pausing you a little bit later there. Look, that's the Achilles heel. That's the Achilles heel of our current society that we've chosen to build. All we have managed to do in the course of human history is find a way to make the process of selfishness civilized. That's it. 1,000 years ago, let's go even farther back. 10,000 years ago, we had a rather savage process of selfishness. You got something, that somebody else wants, they hit you in the head with a club and take it. I got something you want, club, head, you take it. We raised ourselves up a little bit, and we got to the point where we realized that big groups of us could do things collectively that little groups of us just couldn't. And we got pretty kick-ass things like pyramids and what have you, but to organize us to do that, we had to align ourselves with extraordinarily selfish individuals, occasionally people who had the genuine well-being of their followers in mind, but people that called themselves God Kings and claimed literally divine heritage. Fast forward all the way till now, the new system we're using, there was some history between then and now, but the place we got to, the new system we're using, we're back to taking what we can, but we've just established that the rules are they're in place and they're known, and they don't involve, for the most part, violence. But now we're here, and now we have a problem which needs solving. We're back to that old stuff. It's the kind of problem that's like the bear that lives in the area. There's no real negotiating with it, You can prepare against it, but it's nature, baby. And this time, it is such a big problem that we have to deal with it. And now it is a nature problem of the size that requires cooperation on a massive scale. Good news is, for the most part, we don't have to do things. We have to stop doing things. That means if we're going to keep this this civilized way of going about things around, which I'm all for, then we need to decide as a society to simply make it more expensive to do the things that are harming us than it would be to knock it off. I know that was long-winded, but it really is. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. So if you're watching this piece and you're thinking, oh, Bernie's on to something, but what do? We can do just about anything. If you have an idea, if you have a notion of how this ought to be handled, as long as doing your notion handles the problem, it's better than what we're currently doing, which is nothing. Not a damn thing. Person to talk to about it would be your representative. Or knock around your ideas in the comments here. We'll pick the best one, and then we'll talk to our representatives. But the goal should be to make it more expensive, either in terms of literal dollars or prison time. More of a bother to hurt the environment we all live in than to harm it. Because right now there are no consequences for harming it, and there are huge cash rewards for doing exactly that.
One example. Despite the frightening impact of climate change on the United States, highly populated Asian countries are facing even worse challenges. Sea levels on China's coastline are rising more quickly than the global average. Major cities like Shanghai, Tianjin, and Shenzhen are all located along the Chinese coast and could face catastrophic flooding in years to come, creating havoc with the entire Chinese economy. There are projections that Shanghai, a city of 24 million people, could be underwater by the end of the century. Now, the bad news is that developing a mutually beneficial relationship with China to save the future of this planet will not be easy. Sadly, pathetically, there are hawks in both countries who are working hard to create a new Cold War. The good news is
I want to get to that good news. I want to feel good, so I'll be quick. But I do want to really stress that that is something to start watching out for. Look for people who are unreasonable with China, not people who are really unreasonable in either direction. So on the rare case, Lord knows I haven't seen it in politics, but on the rare case you see somebody saying China can do no wrong, I'm just inoculating us for the inevitable bots in the future. If you got somebody saying China can do no wrong, then F them, don't listen to them. But most importantly, if you got somebody constantly looking to start beef with China, be aware of what Bernie just said. We really do have a bunch of filth in our government trying to get us into a Cold War with China. Some of our best social strides came during the Cold War because there are people in our government who know no other way to govern than to get you mad at somebody so that all your energy can be burnt off on being mad at that target and not the person who's in charge of making your life better. And if you want to know why folks in the government pick scapegoats, that's why. That's why. Because they're not doing the work for you that they're supposed to be doing. So instead, they would prefer you be angry at China, or as it was back in the day, the Soviets, or as it was eternally in the United States, that darn person that's brown, or whatever color we've picked. Be on the lookout for that. We call them warhawks often. But truly, they're the vernacular for them. They're just assholes.
Is that we still have time, the United States, China, and other countries around the world, to make the decision to act aggressively in combating climate change and preventing irreparable damage to our country and the entire planet. While we must work diligently to foster international cooperation on climate change, we must also do something else. In the United States and around the world, we must ask a very simple question. How did we get here? How did we get to a place in time where the health and well-being of the entire planet
It's a great question.
and the lives of billions of people is under enormous threat? And the answer to that question is not complicated. The truth is that the scientific community for many decades has made it crystal clear that climate change and all the dangers it poses in terms of drought, floods, extreme weather disturbances, and disease is the result of carbon emissions from the fossil fuel industry. As far back as the late 1950s, over 60 years ago, physicist Edward Teller and other scientists were warning executives in the fossil fuel industry that carbon emissions were, quote, contaminating the atmosphere and causing a greenhouse effect that could eventually lead to temperature increases, quote, sufficient to melt the ice cap and submerge New York, end quote. That's what they were saying 60 years ago. In 1975, Shellback research concluded that increasing atmospheric carbon concentrations could cause global temperature increases that would drive, quote, major climatic changes, end quote.
Let's be absolutely clear on a personal level, like on a you and me level, what happened. So those reports came out. Conservatives, of course, did everything they could to just ignore them. not just Democrats, liberals, people who consider themselves on the left, they were divided. Why were they divided? Because some of them thought, not going to affect me, so I'm going to pretend like this isn't real. Enough of us looked at the problem and thought, I won't be hurt by it. Or we'll have time. Or this should get solved, but I'm going to solve it somewhere down the line. I'll solve it when technology just makes it that much easier to solve. Ignoring the fact that it was their job at that time to start coming up with the technology, to fund the technology. Now, yeah, there were people alive then and hearing about it then that could have done something and did do something. There were people that did take steps. It just was not enough. Fast forward to the 90s, and I remember a big push happened again. We were being told, hey, some of those things we said were going to start happening, they're happening, and it's really not a good sign. The same thing happened. Scientific community was honest with us about how long we had in their estimation and what would happen, and enough people thought this won't affect me personally, or it will affect me down the line, and we can trust that somebody else will take care of it when it needs to be taken care of, or when it happens, I'll be fine. Somebody else will pay the price. It happens again and again and again and again and again. And now here we are. Now we are paying the price. Now it well and truly begins. And what's the divide? The divide is people that believe it won't affect them personally. So at least we have that chunk of people that say it might affect me, but it'll be taken care of later. At least that chunk is dwindling. But now we have the people that believe it won't affect me personally, so I can pretend like it isn't real out there. Or I can pretend like it's a fine thing. Conservatives have switched from saying it isn't happening to it's not man-made to it's a good thing. It is happening and it is man-made, but hey, look, we benefit. We're going to benefit from a nice, warm afternoon. Never mind that warm means over 100 degrees in places where it ain't supposed to be that. Never mind that warm means the ocean is the same temperature as a hot tub. That's who we're dealing with. And if you have found yourself in the camp of people that were saying it isn't real, and then switch into the camp of people saying it is real, but it's not man-made. And then switch into the camp of people saying, oh, but we're going to somehow financially benefit from this. We're not, for the record, just to be absolutely clear. But if you found yourself switching between those camps, you should know you're listening to people who have known the entire time that it is man-made, it is happening, and it's not good for us. They've known the entire time. They've known. So don't listen to them about anything anymore. Because they've been lying to you about something that is, and I mean this without exaggeration, as serious as it gets. We are discussing the viability of life on the one planet which is capable of supporting life. Just the one. You want to talk about maybe doing some steps to make sure that we don't have just the one planet. In fact, we have multiple planets that we can exist on. You want to talk about that? I'm down. I'm up for it. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a project we'd have to work on now, and in 6 or 7 generations, maybe see some real progress on. I'm down for being those the granddaddy generation of the folks that do space travel. Sure. But the reality is we're certainly not there now. And we really do only have the one planet. And if we don't have that, then the universe, as far as we know it, doesn't have intelligent life. Literally as serious as it gets.
And compared the dangers of burning fossil fuels to nuclear waste. Beginning in the late 1970s, Exxon, now ExxonMobil, conducted extensive research on climate change that predicted current rising temperatures correctly and skillfully. The fossil fuel corporations knew. They knew they were causing global warming and therefore threatening the very existence of the planet. Yet, in pursuit of profit, fossil fuel executives not only refused to publicly acknowledge what they had learned, but year after year lied about the existential threat that climate change posed for our planet. So what happened to the CEOs who betrayed the American people and the global economy? Were they fired from their jobs? Were they condemned by pundits on cable television and the editorial boards of major newspapers? Were they prosecuted? Did they go to jail for their crimes? Nope, not at all, not on one of them.
Oof.
The reality is these CEOs simply got richer and richer. It is obscene. When a criminal walks into a store and shoots the clerk behind the counter, we make the moral judgment that this behavior is socially unacceptable.
Boom.
And that gunman should be punished. When a public official misuses and steals taxpayer money, we make the moral judgment that that embezzler should lose his or her job and perhaps be incarcerated.
Yes.
Yet when fossil fuel executives make calculated decisions that are life-threatening to billions of people or to the entire planet, we are told that it's just business. No, no, no. That is not acceptable.
Hell yes.
That is why.
Hell yes, Bernie Sanders. That's what I'm talking about. End of the day, folks, hell, with all of this, end of the day, it just comes down to holding these incredibly wealthy folks to the same rules as you or me, to the same rules we have to follow. We would, however you put it, whatever the scenario, we would get in trouble for knowingly lying to people about something that will affect their health. We would get in trouble. We would go, most likely, to prison if we were to do the sorts of things they do. But because in the fossil fuel industry you make so much money in exchange for those crimes. No, we can't, our system does not allow us to view them as criminals because it's owned by them. But look, it's only owned by them so long as we keep agreeing that it is. Really, all we have to do is insist that they be treated as they have earned. They should be treated the way they should get the treatment they have earned, which is to say, for most of these ladies and gentlemen, and this is not hyperbole, prison. If anybody clocked in as whatever goddamn fancy title they had, CFO, COO, spokesperson for yada yada yada, a fossil fuel company, and they put their eyes upon a study that they commissioned that said, we're killing everybody. And then they turned around and told the rest of us, nah, it'll be fine. Prison. because they lied. And we made decisions that will affect our health based upon those lies. Some of us have died as a result. Others will certainly die as a result. Prison.
Earlier this week, I sent a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland urging him to bring lawsuits against the fossil fuel industry for its long-standing and carefully coordinated campaign to mislead consumers and discredit climate science in pursuit of massive profits. That letter was co-signed by Senators Merkley, Warren, and Markey. Like the tobacco industry before him, the actions of ExxonMobil, Shell, and potentially other fossil fuel companies represent a clear violation of federal racketeering laws, truth in advertising laws, consumer protection laws, and potentially other laws. And the Department of Justice must act swiftly to hold these companies accountable for their unlawful actions. More than 40 states and municipalities have filed lawsuits that seek to hold the fossil fuel industry accountable for their illegal campaign of...
Hell yeah. I first of all, likely will revisit this next week in a very much abridged form. I just want to, because we're talking about pieces here, give my own thoughts. When I say I go farther than Bernie in a lot of things, this would be one such scenario, one such case. I look at these folks and I think, yeah, a lawsuit that forces these companies to act right is something we should do, sure. But in my opinion, that's the absolute minimum. I think we have an obligation to go farther. I think we need to decide what kind of a society we live in. Just like the person who gets caught shoplifting a loaf of bread, and we have decided we live in a society which will punish that, but then do nothing about the circumstances that caused it. We also need to decide the degree to which we will allow these rich to get away with crime. I say not at all. Not at all. Being rich should give you just one reward, which is the money. That's it. That's all you get for being rich. The money. And all the wonderful things you can buy with it in the society we've set up. If you earn the most money, you get a Porsche. You get a mansion. You can go on, as long as we have them, ski trips to snowy mountains for funsies. That's what you get for the money. For the thing you do that earns all the money. You don't get immunity from consequences when you act like a goddamn criminal. Is there a difference in punishment if you assault somebody with if you commit a murder with a gun, as opposed to a garrote, like a wire you wrap around somebody's neck? Not really, because those are two poor people's weapons. The poors kill with guns and wires and knives and fingers. That's how poor people kill. Rich people kill by lying to you. They kill by hiring a scientist to say whatever the hell they want them to say, and then telling you that they did an unbiased study. That's how they kill you. But because it takes a lot of money to kill people that way, we've said that's fine. That's okay. Anybody have a family member die of a heat stroke during unseasonably warm weather? Anybody have a loved one die in a freak weather occurrence? We can't say that every single one is directly connected to these folks, but we certainly can't say that all of these situations, the freak weather, the bizarrely hot temperatures we're enduring, the wildfires, we can't give them a universal pass on these things because these are the very things that have been predicted by their own studies done in the 70s. They are guilty. We should establish that in a court of law and send them to prison. Don't worry about us not having fancy rich people. I assure you, somebody that is incredibly rich will rise up and take their place and then become incredibly, incredibly rich like their predecessor was. But the difference is our new incredibly, incredibly rich person will know that if they lie and they get somebody killed, they'll go to prison. That's the purpose of sending people to prison, by and large. So I think that's what we should do. My personal feelings. What do you think? Let's hear about it in the comments. Oh boy, that was a long one. Oh, Groove Dragon. No, but I had a heat stroke and it scared the hell out of me. Yeah, man. It would scare me too. Good Lord. Wireless Mike, money is not the root of all evil. Oh my God. Money is not the root of all evil. Money is the fertilizer that feeds the roots. Let me just pause for a second. I'm copying that. I might start something like the WYCD quote of the day. Something along those lines, because God damn, that's a good one. That's a good one. Copied it. I'm going to put it in some artistic form. Mars Falcon. Okay, Neil Mick, I am done here. Peace out. Oof. Let's see, Neil Mick. Let's have a look at what that's all about. Oh, talking to a lot of folks. Well, it sounds like raising a stink. I'm seeing a lot of ats there. Okay, CEOs to the world. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice we are willing to make. Fair enough. Oh, mercy me. Oh my God. Ayn Rand, Rand Paul, and Ron Paul walk into a bar and order whiskey. The whiskey was unregulated and laced with arsenic. They die. I'm all for that. Seeing a lot of debates with Neil Mick, but I'm not seeing the heart of it. But let's check the old sheet here. Oh, I see stuff from Foxy, Susan, Zix. All right, fair enough. But nothing from Neil. So if y'all have a video you'd like me to look at, drop it in the pinned comment, and I will absolutely have a look. Scott Ward, global warming is the plan, man. Lots of newly thawed farmland in Russia, a northern passage through the Arctic Ocean. It's the plan. I mean, I do think there's tons and tons of folks that are trying to capitalize on global warming. And they're going to do the best they can. They're going to try to make the most money they can, sure. But I think those same folks, if given a wand before they made investments, would simply choose to be trying to do business in a world that wasn't boiling. Neil Mick saying it's about AOC and her bland endorsement of Biden on Pod Save America. In short, I won't go on a long AOC thing just because she's from New York. She deals with a ton of stuff, but I don't follow her as closely as folks from the Midwest because I have less run-ins. But AOC blandly endorsing Biden, I'm fine with. To me, all I hear is she endorsed him. And if she's got a lot of problems with Biden, yeah, I get it. And I think she's talking to a generation who is a lot more comfortable with the reality that we got to deal with. The reality being most of the folks on the left do not care for Biden and his policies broadly, but understand that he's the best option. He's the one who we must support if we want our policies, the things we care about, and I'm speaking as somebody who is on the left, to happen in some form. And if she didn't give him this credit, then I will. Biden, as Sam Cedar says, is a cipher. He will do what he believes the people want him to do. So if she gave him a bland endorsement, I think not only is that fine, I think that is probably more likely to get Biden votes than pretending like he is some champion of the left. He's not. And most of the folks that vote for AOC understand that about Biden. Most of the folks that listen to AOC understand that about Biden. And so a full-throated endorsement where she's like, "Oh, the sun rises with him," that wouldn't have been taken seriously, and rightly so. It wouldn't have come from an honest place. But it's still an endorsement. Neil Mick, oh man, so sad. The planet is literally boiling, and AOC hadn't a syllable to say about climate change and his gifts to big oil. But okay then. Yeah, I mean, let's take that for a second. Let's just look at that specific issue. Climate change. It is a big deal. Ask yourself honestly. Biden and Trump go to the White House. Is there a difference? Not do you have problems with one, not yeah, but just asking honestly, is there a difference in how these two deal with the climate? I mean, you're not wrong. Biden keeps giving gifts to big oil. That's a problem, for sure. But he has to dance. He's got to put some effort into covering it up. Trump doesn't. Any Republican is not going to be bashful about their gifts to big oil. What you're talking about is the difference between a neoliberal in the form of a Democrat and a neoliberal in the form of a Republican. You're right to think that that Biden is giving gifts to people that don't that shouldn't get them. But what would have been the benefit? What would AOC have accomplished by railing about these things? I'm not even suggesting that nothing. Like, the answer is not nothing. Certainly she would have raised awareness. That's good. But if you're looking at what strategy gets the most votes for the person who has the best shot, or rather the person we have the best shot of using to accomplish our goals, I think the answer in this case is exactly what AOC did. A half-hearted endorsement of somebody we must begrudgingly vote for. I was Bernie in the primaries, Biden in the general last time. I will say this time around, in fact, let's talk about some of the woo lefties. Let's talk about some of the other folks running in the Democratic primary this time around. I don't see one that I would be excited to have as president. And I'm intentionally asking for your smoke here, Neil Mick. I realize in these types of shows it's normally argumentative. I don't mean it that well. I want to debate with you, but good-naturedly. I love the fact that we appear to be largely on the same side. Awesome. Do you have a candidate? Is my question to you. Do you have a candidate? Oh, cool. It wasn't a half-hearted endorsement, but it was a full endorsement. Okay, we can agree to disagree. Appreciate the exchange. Thanks. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure, man. But my question to you is, do you have a candidate that you think would have been better for her to endorse? Because I would like to look at them. This is how I came across Bernie once upon a time. And, I'm just short of having a picture of Bernie on my wall with hearts all around it. So expand my my repertoire a little bit. If you've got a candidate that would have been better, tell me. As Wireless Mike says, sadly not a one. Yeah, I look at the current field and I just don't see it. I see some good ideas sprinkled in with a whole lot of nonsense, and I am real gun shy about nonsense. I'm very much a clean with Gene guy. I think there is baggage unduly carried by the left because our good ideas about how to run things tend to get lost amidst nonsense. I think we ask for people to put up with way too much irrelevant nonsense. And it's usually like good-natured irrelevant nonsense. It's like, look, I like to sit down in a drum circle and sing Kumbaya, and I think we should all do this once a week. Like, all right. That might be good for you and your soul. That's a weird thing to talk about on the campaign trail. Like, oh well. As you're seeing my hidden old curmudgeon. But I tell you, Neil, I'm and I'm also sorry to single you out like this. I like hearing from people that seem like they might push me in one direction or another, and I love giving you that opportunity. But I'll move on. But if you got somebody you want me to look at honestly and talk about what I like and don't like about them, let me know. I'll have a gander. Michael Skiles, why is there such a drought of candidates? Actually, I can tell you this pretty straightforward. Because there's an incumbent. We're what you all are looking at, and the way I think a lot of you feel, makes perfect sense, and it makes me optimistic. What you all want is another party. What you want is there to be a whole. Excuse me. What I think I'm seeing is that, I mean, the behavior of folks that are expecting their party to put up a candidate to try to take the main seat of power, and that makes a lot of sense. If the person running as a Democrat didn't already have the presidency. If you're thinking, but wait, they don't represent my politics, you're right. Democrats are, in my opinion, center-right. On the world stage, the U.S. Democratic Party is center-right. And you, I suspect, are not that. Neither am I. We exist at a point in time where I feel we are seeing a party flip. And it's not bad news for us. It's great news for us. We've been here for a while. We've been here for at least 20 years. Since the Iraq War. We have been here for at least 20 years. Progressives, a lot of our hatred for centrist Dems, it just comes from being forced to be roommates when we really shouldn't be. That's all it is. I would love them as friendly opposition. I would love to say, like, listen, Biden's America sounds great, but it's bought for with big oil. And I'll tell you, Biden's America tomorrow sounds like a place that's a little too warm for me. I would love to have that, but we just don't. What we have right now is the left represented by a center-right political party, and that party is already in power. And in my opinion, the way we deal with that is primary. Everybody we can, we primary. But the reason why there are not a glut of, there's not a bunch of choices right now is everybody who's serious about being president, everybody who would genuinely have a crack at it, they're not going to bother trying to unseat Biden because they know they won't, and they know they'll look foolish for trying. Neil Mick, I live in a safe state. For now, I'm leaning Cornel West. His latest tax issues are a thing for me, but he's miles away from endorsing a status quo as great candidate like Biden. Ooh. Fair enough. I understand what you're saying. My beef with Cornel West is broad. One of the main things being I don't believe he's truly running to be president. And I got to tell you, what he said about Ukraine disgusted me. The idea that we would negotiate with Russia is so disheartening. But that's just me. You're welcome to like it. By all means, like him. And I'll say this, his history, what he has done in the past, has earned him, like, in my book, has earned him like 1,000 gimmies. It's going to be real hard for me to be at all negative about Cornel West. Folks, we were talking about, you know what, we're going to do a surprise segment here. One I wasn't expecting to do, but y'all got me on a conversation I'm enjoying having quite a bit, so we're going to record this. The general idea of our conversation was about why there are not a lot of candidates running in the Democratic primary for president. It's good that we have one, but why do we have like a lack of very serious candidates? The answer is because we already have an incumbent, and it's unusual to run like a primary when you've already got the seat of one. You've already got the incumbent advantage. All you stand to do from the perspective of a party leader here is lose your advantage of incumbency going into the general election. I think the broader question is, why do we want there to be? In days past, there would have been lefties who were annoyed by the idea of primary candidates when we've already got the seat. My answer, my best guess, is that we're in the middle of a party flip. I think that Democrats on the world stage are center-right, and progressives are getting real sick of having their ideas for how government ought to be run lightly nodded to by the center-right politicians, and then never actually taken seriously once the campaign is over. And that's understandable to me. In fact, I've lived it, and the fury that builds is hard to put into words. So if you're looking for some good news in all this, it's that I think I'm seeing signs that we're well on our way. What I believe is going to happen are the refugees from the Republican Party, those neoliberals who want to go back to just dog whistling racism, and giving gigantic tax breaks to big businesses. They are trying. They're migrating over slowly to the Democrats, and the Democrats, the centrist Democrats, those people who are happy to dog whistle fighting racism with their kente cloth and their what have you. But then just give giant tax breaks to big corporations. They're getting awful chummy. And these are the people who go on and on about how we might not agree on everything, but they're good people. They're getting awfully chummy. The interesting thing is that there's something that I didn't see happening that is a step in between these two becoming their own party, and probably for the sake of losing the bag, it's just calling it the Democratic Party. There's something that's happening, which is folks who are refugees from the right seem to be stopping off at what they call no labels. Here's Shark30 talking about it.
You know what? They're going to have to see us through our work.
Yeah, they're just gonna have to. You're just gonna have to. You're just gonna have to listen to us. I mean, just if you don't notice that we're instantly fleecing you, then is it really that big of a problem? Yes, it is. It is that big of a problem. It's a massive problem, and I should.
This guy is. I'd be shocked if I didn't babysit him at some point. And yet, look at that setup with the thing on the side. Dang it, I got to work on that. All right. He's about to go into, for the record, let me just tell you what he was talking about there. He was talking about the fact that that group, let's say, they did not feel comfortable saying what they stood for or revealing where their money came from. And now he's going to look into who makes up this party, this no labels party. Who is in it?
Know everything about your organization. Everybody should, because it's in the public interest. You shouldn't be running for public office to be a public servant if I don't know exactly who you're serving. That's just my. That's all I'm saying. I know.
Okay, I take it back. He was talking about the other thing, which I'm really proud of him for talking about. Which is the fact that yes, we have allowed there to be laws that let people just hide who's giving them money. And my God, the kids are all right, huh? Yes, we should know who you're serving. But now he goes into what I want to hear.
I know you're serving somebody. Politicians are always serving somebody. Now, whether or not it's you is another question entirely. That's another question entirely. And I think that we should all know a little bit about that. That's just me, though. And I just think they're a bit strange. Because a lot of these, not left, not right, backwards type parties and PACs and political organizations that pop up usually are just weird. You know, usually when they're like, oh, I'm not left or right, you open the box and they're always right. It's kind of weird how that works out. They're always right wing. Kind of strange how that works out personally, but it seems like.
Gonna let him keep going in a moment, but yeah, that does keep happening. It's not just this group. There are multiple groups where they say, hey, we're not left or right, we're just here for sensible government, and then it turns out it's nothing but right-wingers. That, I believe, is a step before they're unifying, and what y'all are talking about in the comments on this very stream tells me that it's extraordinarily likely that the feelings are mutual. I mean, you're sick of being in a party with these folks too. I'm Joe Manchin. I'm sick of being in a party with that guy. There's no reason we should be sharing campaign funds. When I say to donate, I don't usually say to donate to the Democratic Party because I think they're going to give their money to folks like Joe Manchin. I'm sick of it. We should not be in the same party. Kristen Sinema, she's been kicked out. Good. She does not belong in a party with the rest of us, but she still hangs out with Joe Manchin in public events. They're very much aligned, and they're not aligned with us. So a party switch, I feel, is coming. Break it down, Shark30. I'm going to call him Sharky. And I want you to know it is out of respect because I keep getting his proper name wrong. And if he ever comes across this clip, he is Shark 30. Actually, you know what? That's not too hard. But if he ever comes across this clip, I welcome any correction he issues.
It seems like they're moving forward with this, whether or not they're going to tell you who's giving the money. And the Daily Beast made a really interesting article about this recently. No Labels launches controversial 2024 campaign with no ideas whatsoever. So if you're getting all of this money and you don't have any real concrete political ideas and you're a political organization, what do you think's going on there? There's something strange going on there, don't you think? Don't you think? The well-funded Centrist Group says that it plans to field a presidential candidate who will focus on substance, but its first big event was all style. New Hampshire, at their town hall event on Monday night, began with a historical, well-funded third-party presidential effort. The Centrist Group No Labels seems to have all the right ingredients in place. They had two bold-faced headliners, Joe Manchin and former Utah Governor John Huntsman, who floated supporting a third-party candidacy, or in Manchin's case, running himself. In the crowd at St. Anselm College, No Labels had a high wattage roster of guests, ranging from former North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory to former Representative Fred Upton, another Republican, and former Representative Joe Cunningham from South Carolina. Okay, sure, I guess, buddy. And even the popular Republican governor himself, Chris Sununu. Man, that's a lot of Republicans, don't you think? How many Democrats are here? 2? And it's Joe Manchin and Cunningham? Okay.
Do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about when I say a party switch may be on the way? Not quite comfortable saying, let's be Democrats. Mood isn't right quite yet for that. Let's see what happens after 2024. Let's see what happens. If we are successful and we get, let's say, the House, Senate, and White House, and we start taking a page out of MAGA's book and harassing the people we put in power until they do the things we want them to do. And we harass like ladies and gentlemen, and we do things like protests and email writing campaigns and things like that. We start getting some progressive change. How much you want to bet that a lot of your whoever replaces Pelosi, your Schumers and your what have yous end up saying, I really feel more comfortable with the centrists. But by, of course, centrist, they mean the folks at No Labels. They mean people like that. To me, I think that's likely. It's just untenable to be a Republican in what calls itself the Republican Party these days. And for a long, long time, the people who were nominally representing the left have really been what is referred to as fiscally conservative, which is just, for the modern progressive, unacceptable. And I think we are looking at an amicable divorce. And the reason I talk about the potential so much on this show is that the things we do now will decide, when the power is divided, how much of it we get. I want to get most of it. I want progressives being the dominant political force in the 21st century. I think that is our last and best hope for fixing things that need to be fixed immediately. either because if we fail to fix them, our shame will be great, or because if we fail to fix them, that's the game. That's it for humanity. So I want us to get the majority of the power, and I also want us to really understand the difference between the bad guys and the annoying guys. Democrats are the annoying guys. The people who believe that, black people ought to have X or Y awful thing done to them en masse. Those are the bad guys. Probably time for us to start making preparations for an amicable split. I would recommend donating to things like the DSA. I would recommend supporting in the primaries, in the upcoming primaries, the farthest left candidates you can find. And when you're looking at the behavior of folks that are calling themselves centrist, imagine that behavior with just another label, so to speak, and you will understand it for what it is. No labels, very useful for understanding where we are, and more importantly, where we're going to be soon. Let's see what y'all have to say. The anti-corporatist, honestly, the term progressive is starting to get a long in the tooth too, you know? I mean, I definitely identify with all the progressive ideals, but I think we might need a new label. Yeah, and Christy Zilkowski asking a good question. What do you suggest, anti-corporatist? I think it's a fair question. I would almost say it's time for progressive to start, and hear me out here, meaning something different, because what you are saying is true, and I think we should use that. I think that might be the name of the new party, the Progressive Party. Because progressive works better as a broad umbrella for a series of intentions, you know, change that benefit people, as opposed to change that just devastates people in fresh new ways. Yeah, I think it might be time to formalize the shift in the meaning of the word, and call it a new party. But you're right. I mean, as far as describing what that group of people is into, the word progressive is a little bit vague. We might want to get a little bit more specific so it becomes a little more useful, just as a term that we use to describe what we're talking about. The folks from Pod Save America, for example, to back you up, anti-corporatist, they call themselves progressive. And I don't think anybody who I have thought independently is like, oh, that's a progressive person. None of those people consider them progressive. So, yes, it's starting to lose a little bit of its luster, and my vote is to change, rather than stop using it altogether, just formalize the way in which we're using it, and that would be to call a new party that. CPUP Shark 300. Thank you. That helps me a great deal. Bob Treesh II, the reality party. I like that. I do like that. The anti-corporatist, hashtag Jake's plan on how to get protest outlawed. Oh no! Oh no! I hope not. Oh, I hope not. Folks, if I accidentally get protests outlawed, that's my bad. I hope I don't do that. Oh. Ooh. Christy Christy Zukowski, the Progressive Anti-Fascist Party. I do like that. Deborah Kempthorpe, pretty much the same thing happened here with effing DeSantis winning over Christ by a small margin. That's heartbreaking. The anti-corporatist, hey, I have an idea. Can RFK Jr. go over to the No Labels Party? That would be great. You know how there's that one episode of The Office where Jim mails Dwight's resume out to various companies in an attempt to get rid of him? Man, we ought to do that for RFK Jr. Just pretend like we're his agent and contact No Labels, contact the Republicans, be like, hey, if you got an offer for my boy Bobby Betrayer, by all means, let's hear him. I'll pass him along. That guy's got to go. I'm so sick of him. Good Lord. Well, folks, I had a blast hanging out with you today. It was Friday Peace Talks. Y'all, we made it. End of the week. Tomorrow is Salty Saturday. I don't know. I feel awfully salty. If you got things you want to see me kvetch about, send them to me. I'll share the link tomorrow. But save them. Be ready to send them. I'll see you then. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. For the record, you know what? And for the record, the anti-corporatist has a great idea. We should call ourselves the After Party. I like that. The After Party. That's got my vote. Well done. That is by far the best party name I've ever heard. Because everybody, as he says, everybody likes the After Party.